$300,000. Yes, $300,000. That's what's up for grab this weekend in the Major League Fishing Redcrest on Table Rock Lake. Can you imagine winning a tournament and coming home with $300,000? There's 35 anglers that have qualified. So there's only going to be 35 folks fishing. You got a 1 in 35 chance of winning this. Table Rock Lake right now is fishing phenomenal. There's tons of fish in the lake, and I believe it's going to be a super action-packed tournament. 3 days, full field fishes day 1 and 2. Day 1 weight carries over to the second day, and then the top 10 qualify for day 3, the championship round, and then the weights are 0. This is a catch, weigh, and release format. So if you're not familiar with that format, the anglers catch a fish, they weigh it, and there's typically a minimal weight, and I'm assuming it's probably going to be 2 pounds. So if the fish weighs 2 pounds, they weigh it, record it, the fish goes right back in the lake. And if there was ever a time when this really helped the fishery, it is right now, because Table Rock's in the middle of the spawn. And one of the biggest complaints about tournament fishing during the spawn is you catch a fish, you put it in your live well, and you run it all the way back to the weigh-in. You're removing that fish off of the bed. And that's the traditional 5-fish tournament format with the catch, weigh, and release. You know, shout out to Major League Fishing for this. Catch, weigh, and release. You're weighing it, throwing it back in the lake, and it has the opportunity to swim right back to the bed. You know, you're right in the same area you caught the fish, right in the same area where they were on that bed. So from a conservation standpoint, I applaud them. You do lose the drama and the ooh-ah of the weigh-in, you know, walking across the stage with those 5 fish, which, I mean, I'm kind of a traditional person. I do like that, but got to respect the conservation-minded applications of the catch, weigh, and release. It's going to be a phenomenal tournament. Anglers are going to be able to do whatever they want. The scope period is going to be huge. So there's 3 periods in this tournament per day. I believe they're like 2.5 hours each. They're only allowed to fish with Livescope or some sort of forward-facing sonar, whether it be Lowrance, Humminbird, Garmin, for one of those periods. The anglers get to choose that period anytime they want to do it. They're limited to that one period. They're going to make hay. The lake is full of like 2.5-pound spotted bass. In fact, it's kind of a running joke in these BFLs and stuff. They call it the Table Rock 12. Or even on a tough day, most guys can scrape together 5 fish that weigh around 12 pounds because there is a ton of like 2.5-pound spots in there. But that's not the only species in there. Table Rock's really unique because it offers the opportunity to catch a spotted bass, a smallmouth bass, and a largemouth bass all over 4 pounds. They also have a 4th species in the lake. It's a meanmouth, and a meanmouth is a hybrid. It's a hybrid of a spotted bass and a smallmouth. And I think the record on that lake is like 5 pounds, 10 ounces, something like that. I'm not sure if Missouri recognizes that as a different species, but you've got the 4 different species of black bass, and they're all abundant, and they're all going to be up shallow. You got a ton of clear water. You know, Table Rock is notorious for really clear water. Those highland reservoirs in the Ozarks, most of them have some pretty clear water. So you're going to have water visibilities of like 13, 14 feet because we're in the middle of a drought, basically, like spring drought. We've had very, very, very little rain. They're probably not pulling a lot of water through the system. So you're going to have a bunch of really clear water up by the dam. In fact, most of the lake is going to be clear, but you do have the option to run away from that area and get up in those rivers. And there's usually some significant staying up in those rivers. You go up the Kings River, up the White, Long Creek, those kind of places. It's like a whole nother world up there. I remember the first time I experienced that was in a BFL like 4 years ago. The guy I was fishing with, we ran all the way up to Kings River. It was a really long run, but it changed from a lake environment to a river environment. There was a lot of shallow wood, laydowns, stumps, and the visibility was like a foot to a foot and a half. So it's completely different. You're coming from like 15 foot of visibility to like a foot and a half of visibility. So power fisherman's paradise. And with the time of the year, those fish up in that area are probably going to be setting up next to any piece of hardcover. Spawn in, you know, you're going to have pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn. I'd say a lot of those fish are going to still be in that pre-spawn spawn mode, but there's going to be a lot of opportunities for all the different fishermen to fish their style. The scope period is going to be very, very important, as it always is, because table rock bass are notorious for schooling up, especially if you can find some of those pre-spawn bass. I mean, I've seen wolf packs, or not actually wolf packs, but schools of spotted bass, 30, 40, 50 of those. So if a guy can idle around and find some of those staging areas outside of the spawning areas and locate those pre-spawn bass that are schooled up waiting to pull up, I mean, I could see them easily catching like 40 or 50 pounds in that 2.5 hour scope period. But that's not going to be the end of it. Since the fish are up shallow, I feel like there's going to be action all day long. You can literally catch another 30 or 40 pounds just flipping a drop shot around these, pea gravel points, little pockets around docks, shaky head, Ned rig. There's going to be a lot of opportunities to catch bass during the non-scope period. So I think it's going to be an action-packed tournament. I'm really looking forward to checking it out. As far as the anglers, we've got Dustin Connell. This is the 7th Redcrest. There's been 6. Dustin Connell's won 3 of them. So I think he's won back-to-back. So if he was to compete and win this one, it would be his 3rd in a row. But he's got a lot of experience on Table Rock, had a lot of success on Table Rock. So he's definitely going to be one of those guys to look at. Jacob Willer. He's won just about everything there is to win, but he has not won a Redcrest. And he's got a lot of experience on Table Rock too. I think that experience is going to play into his wheelhouse because he's a very versatile angler. He's really good with the forward-facing sonar, but he's also deadly at traditional style fishing, and he's a grinder. He's a worker. He's going to be out there figuring all the stuff out. So he's definitely going to be in the top 10, in my opinion. You've got Roger Fitzpatrick. Roger qualified by winning the Toyota Series Championship last year. He probably has more experience on Table Rock than any other angler in this field. So look for him to compete and do well. The thing that I think is going to be challenging for Roger is this is his first catch, weigh, and release tournament. Roger's a 5-fish guy. He's had a ton of success in the Ozarks, and anybody from that region knows him because of his success. But he's a guy that fishes a lot of big baits, and he's head hunting most of the time. So it's going to be an adjustment for him to put that 5-fish mentality out of his head and focus on catching numbers. Now, I know he's got the experience and he knows enough areas that are holding groups of fish that he should be able to come out just fine on that. But it's almost going to be like he's going to need to just go out and have fun and just pretend like he's on a guide trip. One thing that guides are really good at is putting people on numbers of fish. So I think if he can get into that guide mentality and just kind of that fun fishing mentality, plink around some smaller baits, I think he can rack up the numbers, because he definitely knows the areas of the lake where these fish should be set up. An angler that not a lot of people know about, unless you're from the Kentucky Lake, Tennessee River area, is Mateo Toronto. Mateo won the All-American last year, and he just won a Toyota Series on Kentucky Lake. And there's something about momentum in bass fishing. Momentum carries over, and the more time you have on the water, the more back-to-back tournaments that you're fishing, that momentum just kind of keeps carrying over. So I look for Mateo to be dialed in mentally. He should perform pretty well. I don't know about his experience on Table Rock, but he's really good with side scan, really good with map study. I'm sure he's done his homework, so he's going to know the areas to be looking at. And if he can locate some of those schools, those pre-spawn schools that are staging, he's really good with forward-facing sonar, really good with that minnow. I can see him racking up some weight really, really quick, and then having enough skill to just plink around and finish out the day just dragging something around like a drop shot or a Ned rig. So look for Mateo to do really good. And then you got, you know, your power fishermen, Mark Daniels Jr., you got Zach Burge, Avena, the oldest guy in the tournament, Mark Davis, Edwin Evers, Todd Fairclough, Brent Ayler. You have Ott Defoe. These guys are really good shallow water fishermen. They're really good at covering water. They're really good at keeping their head down. They know how to win these tournaments. They're closers. So those guys are all going to be folks to watch. There's Justin Lucas, my buddy Jake Lawrence. He just had a really good finish off the Toyota series, so he's feeling good. He's kind of got the train back on the track. You got Brody Robinson, Montebello College angler, younger guy. I think he might be the youngest guy in the tournament. Look for him to do good. You got somebody like Takahiro. I mean, a legend in the sport. He just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. I mean, I could see him putting a chatterbait in his hand and just taking off, getting up there in that little bit of stained water. He could rack up. He may not catch the numbers, but his fish may be a little bit more quality, which could keep him in the game. You got Wesley Strader, Jeff Sprague, Spencer Shutfield. It's just the list of these 35 anglers is super deep. These are some of the best anglers in the world. I'm really excited about this tournament. I think it's going to be a really, really good, solid tournament. Besides the actual tournament of the Redcrest, there's a lot more to it. There is an outdoor sports expo that's at Bass Pro Shops. It's the 17th through the 19th from 8 to 6:30, free admission. If you guys haven't been to the Springfield Bass Pro Shops, it's the mothership. There's all kinds of stuff to do in there. It's not just a tackle shop. Huge aquariums. They got all kinds of displays. A lot of history. They've got I think it's the Wonders of Wildlife Museum that you can go through. That's definitely worth the time and the money to go through that. I mean, it takes you back to the old days of fishing all the way through modern times. They've got all kinds of displays. They've got, you know, different mounted animals set up in their environment. It's a really cool thing to go check out. We did it a couple years ago, and it was fun. And in Branson, you know, there's all kinds of stuff to do in Branson. You know, you got shopping, you got food, it's just a really, there's a lot that's offered down in that section of the country. They also have like a meet and greet where it's a fan fest meet and greet deal. It's like April 16th, 5 to 6 p.m. where you can go and meet a bunch of the pros. You can get autographs and just kind of chilling up to the fat with these guys right before they fish for $300,000. 35 guys, $300,000. It's going to air on the Major League Fishing app. If you don't have the app, it's simple, or you can probably just go majorleaguefishing.com and pull it up. I imagine it's 7:30 until the tournament's over, until line's out. But 3 periods, 3 days of fishing. You know, it doesn't get quite as much love as the Classic, but it's still a really good tournament. So if you're in the Springfield area, not doing anything, go down there and check it out. It'll be worth your while. You know, you can sit at the boat ramp when the guys come back in and talk to them. I'm sure they'll spend some time with you. It's going out of Long Creek. Get on the app or get on majorleaguefishing.com and you can get all the details. So, and just wanted to share that with you. I'm kind of excited about it. I like these bigger tournaments. I know a lot of the guys that fish the Major League Fishing tournaments. They've been guests on the live stream. There's a lot of really good dudes out there, some studs. The staff's really good. They work hard. You know, you're going to have some good color commentating by JT and Chad. So give it some airtime. It'd be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to spend a lot of time checking it out. That's all I got for you. Subscribe, thumbs up. Until next time.